The following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers, this is the TFN Geek, and today we are going to be taking a look at a Transformers exclusive that I originally passed on, and I remember even canceling it after buying it because I didn't think I'd have any interest in it, but then after a while I looked around at the Transformers figures that I was collecting, and then I watched reviews of this exclusive here on YouTube, and after hearing and seeing collectors having mostly positive things to say about this exclusive, I figured why not give it a second chance and get it after all. Also, second time was the charm. Hopefully, the third time I will never come around. But anyways, uh, that was just a bad joke that even I found annoying to say. But anyways, bear in mind with me, please, as we take a look at the Transformers Amazon exclusive Legacy Evolution. Let's see. There it is on the top of the box. The Deadeye Dual 2-pack. So this is one of the, I believe it's 5 sets of Transformers figures that have been released in the Amazon exclusive Transformers Legacy Evolution IDW series of Transformers action figures, and the Deadeye Dual 2-pack contains the two Transformers characters who were created for IDW's comic books. We have Decepticon, Kaskade, and then we have Senate Guard, Autobot, Javelin. So, I said this when I showed off that I had purchased the first Legacy Evolution IDW exclusive sets, but I'll repeat myself here, and I'll probably repeat it when I get around to reviewing the last IDW Legacy Evolution figures, but in IDW's comic books, the war didn't start long ago in ancient times. The war between the Autobots and Decepticons started with Optimus Prime and Megatron themselves, and Megatron actually created the Decepticon faction, so law-breaking Transformers who didn't abide by the rules of the Autobots government were known as the Decepticons, a precursor to the Decepticons. The only difference between the Decepticons and the Decepticons is that the Decepticons didn't have any faction symbol that they followed, and they didn't have any tyrannical dictator ruling over them all with an iron fist. So essentially, a Decepticon was a generic term to describe anyone who didn't declare themselves an Autobot and declared themselves lawbreakers. So that's who Kaskade is, and that's why, even though technically she's considered the villain of this 2-pack, she is not a Decepticon at all. The opposite is true of Javelin, as the word Autobot in front of her name and describes her. She is a full-fledged Autobot dedicated to the cause of remaining a loyal subject to Cybertronian law. But there is another thing to note about Javelin. Javelin is that just like Megatron started the Decepticon action in IDW's comic books, even though the Autobot faction existed before the war started, technically it wasn't until after Megatron created the Decepticon faction symbol that Optimus Prime ordered the Autobot faction symbol to be created to unite all the Autobots against the Decepticons. So that's why, just like Kaskade, Javelin doesn't actually have any faction logos on here, and for those who've been collecting the Transformers Legacy Evolution line, just grabbing a random one here behind me. So looking here, using Legacy Evolution Core Class Snarl as an example, for the Legacy Evolution packaging, all of the Transformers characters have had the faction symbols that they're affiliated with printed on their box. And on all of the IDW Amazon exclusive sets, there's no faction symbols next to the names of the Transformers characters because the Decepticon faction action, along with the Decepticon logo in IDW's comic books, was originally invented by Megatron, and the Autobot logo, not the faction existed already, but the Autobot logo itself was invented after Optimus Prime was given the Matrix of Leadership and became commander of the Autobots. So it's an interesting origin story for the faction symbols themselves that IDW did, having Optimus Prime and Megatron be the ones that not only started the Transformers War, but that the faction symbols themselves were created after Optimus Prime and Megatron rose to power. So so that's one thing to note about Javelin. Despite having the word Autobot in her name, the Autobot faction symbol itself didn't exist when she was roaming around Cybertron. But if you want to, you could find an Autobot sticker and put it on her if you desire. But another selling point for this 2-pack that made a lot of collectors get into this before I did was that, to my knowledge, this is the first and currently only Transformers set to have an Autobot and a Decepticon inside of it that has a versus sign on it dividing the artwork. So that's really amazing to see that they decided to do that, put the word versus here, and have the box art split into two halves. So technically it's two separate box art images here with Kaskade and Javelin. The backgrounds are different, so yeah, that's really thrilling to see. On the sides of the box, the artwork just on this side of the box, it just loops around, showing Kaskade's other arm, and she's ready to punch Javelin when she gets too close. This side of the box, of course, you've got half of the Legacy Evolution poster image. On the top of the box, you've got the Legacy Evolution logo. The name of the 2-pack, the Deadeye Dual 2-pack, is what this is officially known as. Bottom of the box, not much really, just disclaimers, warning labels, the barcode here, and if that little white number there on top, as you can see, that single 5-digit code above code right there, that's actually above the barcode itself. That means that this is an exclusive that's packaged by itself. It's not a mass retail figure because reaching back here and using Snarl again as an example, for Transformers figures that are released at mass retail, they are sold in assorted cases, so the product code below the barcode shows that it's in an assorted case here. So you see this long thing here next to the bar, this white code with the letters ASSST, with a period on it. That means it's a mass retail Transformers figure, and if you don't see it next to the barcode and you just see a much smaller 5-digit code above the barcode, then that means it's an exclusive. So, that's just unfortunately proof that this set was intended to be an exclusive all along, and Hasbro had no plans on releasing it at mass retail. I've said that in a handful of my Transformers reviews already, but I want to do a refresher, or for those of you who are wondering how you can distinguish exclusives from mass retail figures once you actually have them in your collection. But anyways, coming on here to the second most interesting side of the box apart from the front, which is the back with the product photos. So there's Kaskade and Javelin in their robot modes and their alt modes. Uh, Javelin transforms back and forth between both of her modes in 18 steps. Kaskade transforms back and forth between both modes in 14 steps. And Kaskade is she's actually a repaint of the Transformers War for Cybertron Trilogy Siege Deluxe Class Chromia figure that was released in 2019, but then Chromia herself was a repaint of the Power of the Primes Moonracer figure released in 2018, and I believe Kaskade is the 7th use of this mold. The first 6 were Power of the Primes Moonracer. There was also Power of the Primes Nova Star, or Firestar as he was called in the G1 cartoon. Then there was Siege Chromia, and then there was Siege Greenlight. The 5th version, I believe, was Generation Selects Lancer. Then there was Generation Selects Nightbird. Kaskade is you said she was the 7th version. She's actually the 9th version, because along with those figures, also, you look down here, what I'm pointing to behind me, Generation Selects God Neptune, and right over my shoulder is Piranacon. On the squids of the Seacon squids, Tentakill and Skilla are mold mates with this mold as well. So yeah, Kaskade's actually the 9th use of this mold, not counting reissues or re-releases done by Takara. Alright, and Kaskade's actually the figure that made me pass on this set the first time I got it, because I thought she had one of the most bland and boring paint jobs of all the deluxe class figures released in the Legacy Evolution line. But now that I've got this set at her mostly bland purple paint job, it's starting to grow on me, actually. Hey, but anyways, that's the background with that mold. And for Javelin here, even though she is a repaint and a retool of a previously released figure, just like Kaskade, Javelin's a repaint and retool of the Studio Series Bumblebee movie Deluxe Class Arcee figure. But since I don't collect any of the Studio Series movieverse figures, I don't have Bumblebee movie Arcee, so Javelin's my first experience with this mold. old, so it's very exciting to see. I don't think this is the first time this has happened where a movieverse mold was done to create a quote unquote Generation 1 Transformers character, but it is the first time in the Legacy Evolution line that a action figure that was designed to be a movieverse Transformer has been transformed, for lack of better vocabulary, into a Generation 1 Transformers character. So that's really so it's a very interesting choice that the designers at Hasbro and Takara took the Bumblebee movie Arcee figure and used it to make a Generation 1 style action figure of Javelin. And that's another thing that makes these two figures unique is that these are the first ever action figures of Kaskade and Javelin, and they're both female Transformers, so that's been a strong selling point for Transformers fans and collectors wanting to get this set and add it to their Transformers collections because female Transformers are outnumbered by male Transformers characters. I don't know the actual statistics, but I want to say like 30 to 1 would be a decent, decent odd of the differences is between male and female Transformers characters. I won't go too much into the background of how female Transformers characters started in the Transformers franchise, but I will say this: is all things considered, I always enjoy adding female Transformers characters to my collection. So without further delay, let's get both of these figures out of the box and take a close look at them in the modes that they come packaged in. Alright, so before we actually take them out of the box and open it up like the other Amazon exclusive IDW Legacy Evolution Transformers figures, they're sold in this display box, but with Hasbro starting at the end of last year in 2022, or actually it might have been this year in 2023, but with their plastic-free packaging campaign, and there's no plastic display bubble that Kaskade and Javelin stand and inside. Instead, they're wrapped up in paper, which actually makes it look like they're inside body bags. Sorry if that joke's a little dark, but yeah, there's nothing too special about it. Hasbro did announce that due to all of the trouble that plastic-free packaging has done for Transformers action figures, they are going to go back to using plastic in some parts of the packaging on Transformers action figures. Supposedly, their plastic windows are going to return in the Transformers Legacy United line. Whether that's true or not, I honestly cannot say, but at least for a majority of the year 2023, Hasbro did have plastic-free packaging advertised on Transformers, and this two-pack is no exception to that to that short-lived trend of the only parts of the Transformers that when you get them for the first time that are made of plastic are the actual action figures themselves. All right, so first up, we will take a look at the figure that made me pass on this at the first time, and it is Decepticon Kaskade. For what she is, being I don't know what shade of purple you would call this. All this, if this is supposed to be lavender or what, I'm not too much knowledged up on the different shades of purple that exist, but the only part that she has to distinguish her from Siege Chromia is this new head sculpt of hers, and I always enjoyed Transformers characters that have one eyeball bigger than the other. I love seeing Transformers figures that have monocles because it just makes them look more robotic, and it makes them look more threatening, ending having two shaped eyeballs on there. But yeah, I really do enjoy the head sculpt on her. But like I said, she's cast entirely almost in the same shade of I keep wanting to say this is lavender, but I can't remember with certainty if this is lavender. But anyways, ironically, even though Javelin is a repaint of a movieverse Transformers figure and Kaskade's a repaint of a Generation 1 Transformers character, because she's almost the same color and has almost a monochrome paint job, I thought it looked boring at first or the first time I wanted to buy this set, so that's what put me off from getting this set the first time was Kaskade's bland paint job. But now that I have it in hand, I realize I regret it was a bad decision on my part passing on this set the first time and then having to wait several more weeks to get it the second opportunity to buy it. But yeah, that's a pretty nice looking figure Kaskade is. Um, In this longer rifle right here that she has in this arm, these are the same parts that came with Chromia and most of the versions of this of the Power of the Primes Moonracer mold. These two parts here at the end are technically grenades that you can detach and have Kaskade wear on her arms if you want. You can also place one up here on the top of the rifle and use it as a scope and up if you desire, or is it the other one? Let me just see. There's a photo on the back of the box. Oh no, that's this long thin piece right here where you do that. Do that. So you can. It's designed. This is a feature that was carried out that started with the Siege line, I believe, and might have actually started with the Power of the Primes line. I don't remember for certain, but you can mix and match the different parts to make different weapons if you desire. So there it is. It's shorter right now. It also comes with this brand new laser gun, which is also made up of two parts. You can separate them if you want, and then have switch the barrels out. But the barrels themselves, at least this new one, at least you can't have it actually hold on to anything. So that's a little unfortunate that there's no pegs to allow the barrel extension of this new laser gun that Kaskade has that can be held on its own. And for a special size comparison, here is Kaskade next to the figure that she's directly repainted and retooled from, which is Siege Chromia. So here's Siege Chromia here, and here's those grenades being actually worn on Chromia's arms. I think that was accurate to her appearance in IDW's comic books. So again, the only difference apart from paint job between these two is their different head sculpts. But I do enjoy that new head sculpt that was designed for Kaskade. And one thing that Kaskade has over Chromia that a lot of collectors have enjoyed right about her and why a lot of collectors I've seen declare Kaskade a better figure is that the backpack section, which becomes the center of the vehicle mode on this mold, on Chromia it's cast entirely out of clear plastic, and I actually saw one reviewer break his copy of Chromia, transforming her just to do a size comparison with Kaskade. So the fact that it's solid plastic on Kaskade, she's now a much sturdier and stronger figure than Chromia is, and is less prone to breakage. So that does unfortunately for Chromia fans, it does make Kaskade in my opinion, the better of these two figures. Figures not having any parts made out of clear plastic, since it does make her stand out more, last longer, or as my voice fails me, it makes her a more sturdy and more durable Transformers figure than Chromia, and she'll probably be able to. I just lost the word I was going for, but since she's less fragile than Chromia is, she probably has a longer lifespan and than Chromia does as a Transformers figure, since clear plastic wears out much faster than solid plastic over time. But yeah, that was Kaskade. And next up, we will take a quick look at Javelin. Here she is in her robot mode. She has a lot more retooled arts on her compared to the Bumblebee movie Arcee figure than Kaskade does to Chromia. The only newly sculpted part on art that Kaskade has to distinguish her from Chromia is her new head sculpt. But with Javelin here, era apparently again I apologize, but I don't have the Bumblebee movie RC figure, but it's not just Javelin's head sculpt, but apparently her entire backpack is different sculpted parts from Bumblebee movie RC. So fresh out of the box, I think her joints are a little wonky and not wanting to line up properly. So I apologize for not trying not lining up the joints better, but anyways. There's Javelin in her robot mode. Oh, a lot of Transformers fans and collectors have really been enjoying Javelin's new head sculpt, where she basically looks like she has a virtual reality helmet on her face. The only part of her face that looks like an actual face is her mouth, and she doesn't have eyes or a nose, not even a visor for the upper half of her face. So it definitely makes her look more robotic than most Transformers action figures that are out there. So that does make Javelin unique, almost being the opposite of Generation One Shockwave, where Shockwave just has one eyeball for for his entire face. Javelin just has a mouth for her face, and the rest of her face is just a helmet. So that's is a unique head sculpt. Although I do have to admit it. I apologize for not going over with Kaskade, doing it with Kaskade, but as far as articulation goes, if you have the Bumblebee movie Arcee and the Siege Chromia molds, these figures have the same points of articulation and the same exact joints. The newly sculpted parts on both these figures don't affect the robot mode joints or the transformations into vehicle mode, but here they are standing opposite each other, and so I've seen a lot of people get both of these figures into very nice action poses and having them do one-on-one battles with each other, and having the Deadeye duel as the name on the box implies. Nice, but yeah, they're both pretty impressive and fun Transformers action figures to have, and again, you can never have too many female Transformers characters in your collection, so these figures have definitely grown on me, even though this is my first time taking them out of the box. I'm really enjoying looking at them now that I have them in hand. So now that we've looked at them in robot mode, let's get Javelin and Kaskade transformed into their alt modes, and we'll wrap up the review. Alright, and so here are Kaskade and Javelin transformed into their alt modes. Javelin is a Cybertronian motorcycle. She's got the two large wheels which were inside the ankles of her robot mode out here on the front. And it's only the inside halves of the wheels that spin around, as evidenced by that hollowed out gap right there for transformation. She's got two tiny wheels here on the back, so one could argue she's technically a trike instead of a motorcycle, but it's an alien design, so you can decide if it's a trike or a motorcycle, however you want. Unfortunately, just like Bumblebee Movie Arcee, her hands are left exposed here on the back of the vehicle mode. But again, being a Cybertronian vehicle, Javelin is technically not supposed to be a robot in disguise. I so I so that's the basis for her robot mode parts not even being hidden when she's transformed into her vehicle mode. My one minor gripe is that I do wish they would have put a 5mm peg or some kind of connection peg farther on the back of the vehicle, because the only weapon storage for Javelin's rifle is here on the topmost section of her vehicle mode. If you want to give her a more streamlined look, you can have the rifle pointed backwards and have it act like a booster where she's moving faster along the streets of Cybertron, trying to stop any Decepticon lawbreakers. But yeah, that's really impressive looking. And then here is Kaskade, who I had out briefly for a moment. Luckily, the new rifle on Kaskade can store on the 5mm port here on the top of the vehicle. And then you have the same rifle that came with Chromia here on this back. You can put these on the different spots if you want. And then, of course, the two grenades are aids they store here on the back, and they act like a pair of rocket boosters for the vehicle mode. Both vehicles do roll pretty well. Hell, I apologize for not being able to have a flat surface to show it off. Here's Kaskade next to Chromia. So as you can see, Chromia has clear parts on here. And there is one little stress mark there inside. I had Chromia's windshield. This was the first time I transformed Chromia in years since actually, I believe since I first got her. This is the last time I've transformed her since, or I believe the year 2019 or 2020, right after I got her. So yeah, I've only transformed Chromia like 2 or 3 times, literally, since I got her. And there's a stress mark just from being transformed that few times. But regardless, I do enjoy Kaskade having a solid plastic windshield. I do hope that Hasbro and Takara Tomy do away with clear plastic and use solid plastic more often, because I don't mind having Transformers that transform into cars and trucks that have solid windows where it's just a different shade of paint. Ain't trying to make it look like glass versus clear plastic imitating glass. Yes, but yeah, there's Kaskade and Chromia next to each other. Other end, of course, there's Javelin for a size comparison with Chromia. But yeah, all in all, they are a pretty impressive duo, and I just really enjoy having two more female Transformers characters that I otherwise, before these figures were released, I didn't have any figures of these, and I actually wasn't even aware of Kaskade and Javelin since I don't collect any of IDW's comic books and I haven't read too many of the stories, so this was a nice introduction to these characters for me. E was these new deluxe figures in the Legacy Evolution line. So for the final proverbial question, do I recommend getting the Deadeye Dual 2-pack at box set of Javelin and Kaskade and adding these figures to your Transformers collection? Absolutely. I learned from my mistake. These are definitely must-have Transformers action figures for anyone's collection. You cannot go wrong having these figures in your collection, even if you have Siege Chromia and Bumblebee Movie Arcee, Javelin and Kaskade are unique enough in their own right, that they are must-have Transformers action figures. Thank you guys all so much for watching. This has been the TFN Geek. This has been my review of the Transformers Amazon exclusive Legacy Evolution Deadeye Dual 2-pack of Autobot Javelin and Decepticon Kaskade. I highly recommend you get these figures and add them to your Transformers collection. And so until next time, you guys, stay safe, stay healthy, transform and roll out. Goodbye, everyone.